Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. Let's jump into roll call. Luke Aguilar?
Here.
Dr. Kathleen Barlow?
Here.
Joey Bryant?
Here.
Dr. Serafini?
Here.
Trey Justin?
Here.
Dr. Martin Kennedy? Here. Brittany Kinsella is excused. Elena Linway?
Here.
Jacqueline Robinson?
Here.
Vinay Skiles?
Here.
Brittany Stamnis?
Here.
Patrick Stanton?
Here.
Spencer Sutton? Here. Tom Votron?
Present.
Right. Moving into approval of this week's agenda, if you could take a minute and review that. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve this week's agenda. Trey moves. Is there a second? Luke seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Moving on to the approval of last week's minutes. If you could take a minute to do that. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve last week's minutes. Spencer moves. Lena seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Moving on to section 5, reports. I don't have any reports.
I have a few here. Since the last meeting, the Budget and Finance Committee of the university met, and they were provided with memos that describe the base funding that was worked out by the committee, and then the supplementals that were approved at the last 2 meetings. And so the supplementals were 8 students to attend the Get Lit Festival. I don't have the numbers on here, so I'll just leave it there. The annual cross-cultural medicine workshop. And then the 3 from last week, the ESC organizations for year-end celebrations, the marching band, and the pep band. And after some deliberation, the committee, BFC committee recommended to move those forward. They'll go to cabinet. Well, I should clarify. Anything over $25,000 goes to the board trustees. So all of them, I believe, go to the cabinet. But I'm pretty confident that anything, with the exception of the 2 that relate to the bands, we're done, and there's no more approval. I also think that it's a strong possibility that the board trustees will approve the band ones. I don't know of any reason they wouldn't, but those are not technically done until that vote. And the music department's excited. Someone called me today, wants to know how to order all the instruments. And I said, you can do a lot of stuff to get ready, but I would not place the order until 5 minutes after the vote. But that's good. And then they also approved the base funding allocations, and there was some discussion there. And everything's lined up. I have the running total spreadsheet here. These are the ones that went to BFC last time. And right now, I don't know why this was in red. I'll fix that. This is what we have to work with for the remaining, how many more meetings? 5 meetings. That doesn't mean spend $10,000 every meeting. It just means we usually talk about how much we have left. That's my report.
Pat, and this is a question. Should we, knowing this is going to the Board of Trustees for the base funding, since there's not necessarily the same type of presentation, should we as a committee draft just a brief cover letter to go to that, to accompany the base funding documents?
Well, I think it would help, and especially if the cover letter described the process
Yeah.
that the committee went through,
Because I know there's a lot of discussion at BFC about that.
and that, there's, the requests outnumbered, or were beyond the ability of the committee to approve, and what process they went through to bring them down within what we could afford. And probably we should include how we determine what we couldn't afford. Those were the main two questions at the BFC. How do you know you have 7.1 million, and what process did you go through? I think though, I'm not sure if there's already a letter coming from the dean of students to accompany this. Okay,
Well,
then maybe we
it
should
could
work
be.
out some wording.
Yeah,
And the next trustees meeting is 3 weeks from now.
May 19th, whatever that Friday is that week. So a month away. So we could potentially draft something the next week or
Yeah.
so, bring it before the committee.
Okay.
With Gary.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, not it. You don't know that.
It's even better than that.
But no, I think that's a healthy, anything that can help resolve possible questions from the board before they get it.
Okay.
And anybody who wants to go to the board of trustees meeting and see how that works should. Open public meeting just like this.
You learn lots of interesting things.
Usually, yesterday.
That was business finance yesterday.
So
That one's also interesting,
Yeah.
very informative.
They look very happy.
Yeah. There's the most discussion I've seen at BFC this year, yesterday.
They were talking about fees.
All the other fees.
Right. Although this one relates,
Yeah. There wasn't.
okay.
Yeah, the only other report that I have, I'll go into the letter here when we get to that other thing, is just more of an announcement that depending on your viewpoint, fortunately or unfortunately, Dr. Kathleen Barlow will be retiring at the end of this year. So wanted to, congratulate her on that end.
Thank you.
But also, that means that she will not be continuing with us next year on the committee. So we'll have to find someone else to fill her shoes. But
Do you have a favorite faculty member you'd like to see on the committee that recruit them?
Congratulations.
Thanks.
she will still be with us the rest of this year for the next
Yeah.
5 meetings. So that's all.
I have a question. Did we ever hear back from the $5,000 request that we declined?
Now,
Heard nothing from?
and I will say there, out of the 5 or 6 who were going, only one of them was the contact person, and that person has never responded or replied back. I guess I will share in here, we did get a question today, and I haven't heard back on whether or not the committee approves travel retroactively. The response I gave was our normal procedure that typically we will not, that we normally need to get those in 15 days in advance to be considered. However, extenuating circumstances that the committee may choose. I haven't heard back from the individual, the student who sent that yet, so it is something I may bring it to you all to see whether or not you want to hear that request or not, but I don't have any other details yet.
Any further reports? All right. Moving into section 6, public comment first call. Is there any public comment at this time? Moving into section 7.
Carrie,
Oh.
just really quick, I want to let folks know that I can't be here at next week's meeting because of the other conference, so.
All right, thank you. Any further public comment? All right, moving into section 7, old business, voting on the CWU student government carry forward of $40,000 from their base funding budget.
And just as a reminder, this was $40,000 that they had allocated and wanted to put aside for the Veterans Memorial.
Table is open for discussion.
So it is the same, it's like an add-on to what we voted on last week?
Yes, yeah, same purpose and intent, just from the student government base funding.
If I remember correctly, the cost of the memorial is planned to be $100,000, and it was going to be funded by a bunch of different pieces.
I'd like to move to approve the carry forward.
There's a motion, Luke seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Moving on to section 8, new business, supplemental funding request presentation 1724, the ACSM in the amount of $705.
Oh, yeah. This one? There's a clicker over there, move back and forth, or we can try to help you.
Okay. Well, my name's Sherlyn Eric, and I'm a senior here. I transferred from another college, and right away I started with McNair Scholars, if anyone's familiar with them. It's an opportunity to do undergraduate research, which I chose to do. I did some preliminary research because I'm a clinical physiology major as well as a psychology major, and I chose to do a hypohydration study in hot yoga. So my objective was to study the hydration status, the fluid intake, and sweat rate of the participants. Reading some literature already established on other sports, I found out that usually participants did not compensate. They had decreased results in body mass, which is a detrimental factor, and they also started the sport dehydrated. So when dehydration occurs, the body loses more water than it takes in. Risks involve developing heat-related illnesses. I'm sure you all know that. I measured the temperature of the hot yoga field, the humidity, and the participants' urine-specific gravity, which is a number that tells me how hydrated they are. So I also measured all the participants' pre-weight, post-weight, as well as their water bottle if they brought one. Looking at the literature, this is some information prior to my study. It implicated that exercise in a hot and humid environment could cause cardiovascular stress, overexertion, and weakness in the participants. So I anticipated the benefits would be to give information to the participants and where they are coming into their sport as well as where they are leaving their sport. Here's my references. And then I did a budget because I submitted my finished research to the American College of Sports Medicine. They accepted it, so I will be doing a presentation at their national conference. Going over here, this is a 4,000 worldwide attendees usually in Denver, Colorado. I'll be doing an abstract poster presentation, and they'll be publishing the abstract in a supplemental journal. So I have a budget here of funds requested. I'm requesting $705 from the S&A. I actually sent in a request to the OUR for $500 in December, but I think I sent it in a little bit early. They remember me, they lost it, and they recommended I come here, as well as McNair recommended I come here. So there is my abstract with my mentors. As the primary author, I have to be in attendance. I'm working on my poster right now, which I have funds for that. All the research was funded federally, so that was already taken care of. It was a 270-hour research project. I actually did like an undergraduate thesis as well, so it's quite in depth. My results, if you're interested, are right here. So my participants did come in dehydrated, 54%. They also did a survey before they participated in the hot yoga, and based on that, they underestimated their sweat loss by more than half. Any questions?
Are there any questions for the presenter?
Yes.
What's the gravity of your?
Oh, gravity. So,
Everyone else.
I will die if I don't find this out.
Sure. So urine-specific gravity is actually a measure of the solute particles in your urine. So the more concentrated the solutes are, the large particles, the more dehydrated you are because there's less water. there's more particles.
So might you run away less on the moon?
I did say that. Sorry. Imagine so though.
Seem to.
Yeah, just it's an interesting study. I like physiology, so this was right up my alley. And perception is always interesting. That's my psychology. So, any more questions?
How long is the
How long's the trip? You just got May 31st on here.
Oh, so it's actually a conference that starts on Tuesday, I think it's May 30th, but I don't want to miss like the whole week class right before finals. So I'll be flying out Wednesday after class. I present Thursday. The conference goes through Friday, Saturday, and I'm going to come home Sunday. So what I've done is booked a bed and breakfast because looking at all the costs of the hotels, it's really high right now. There's a lot of conferences, I think, going on. So I was seeing like $800 and stuff for, it's actually at the Hilton, so obviously I'm not staying there. But I did find a B&B down the road that I booked for $100 a night compared to several hundred a night. And I do have some funds from McNair for my meals. So what I'm looking at is my lodging for 4 nights, the conference fee. I'm going to drive my own car to the airport and I'll have to park it there. I'm not asking for gas or anything like that. Looking at air tickets for the last couple months, it's about 500 round trip to Denver, either from Yakima or Seattle. So yeah, the total is about $1,350. And yeah, that's where I'm looking for funds.
Are there any further questions?
Yes. Do we have any personal saving up money for this conference?
This is not, I don't know, that's a good question. So since I'm doing this as a school project, they told me to try and get it paid for through the school. So any extra expenses that I need are of course going to come out of pocket. As a McNair Scholar, I qualify for low income and underrepresented populations. So I'm already in a trio McNair Scholar situation. I don't know how personal you want me to get on my financial situation, but but yeah, so personal funds would be a hardship for me to go to this conference on my own.
Any further questions? Thank you. We'll be voting on this next week.
Back over here. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Moving on to section 8B, flat funding, the updated language.
So, I don't know if I made enough copies of this. So we had talked earlier about the flat funding, specifically to update and clarify the language about the salary increases, to make it more clear for future committees. As a reminder, the flat funding agreement is with the student union and the rec center areas, on those areas that are flat funded. Supposed to be based on what their funding was in 2006, with the exception of salary increases. The prior base funding committee 4 years ago brought up some concerns based on that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you
had brought up concerns, specifically looking at concern whether or not it was truly flat funded over those years. And in reviewing, it looks like that was due to some misinterpretation of what salary increases encompassed. So this, and I'll be honest, I just very quickly threw together a memo, so you can tear it apart as much as you want in any way, and we can change anything. But it's mostly simply saying, as you can see on there, reminder of what the original agreement was within there, and then saying, due to the concerns that really were clarifying that salary increases only constitutes cost of living or minimum wage increases, and are not those salary changes as a result of an appointing authority either raising the salary of a position or reclassifying the position.
So,
Like I said, I just threw this together.
yeah, are you asking for input?
Well, this would be, yes, input for the committee, because then you all will determine and vote on what this finally will be, so that way we can put the document out there, so
I think-
clarification is
I
there.
think we should make sure that in the civil service jobs, there's a range and step, and once you've
Yes.
been here a year, you have something that's not really a cost of living increase. But I think we should make sure that that's addressed however we want to address it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the key is that
Yeah.
not salary changes as determined by individual appointing authorities. That's what you want to kind of preclude.
Yeah.
Um,
We can get clarification from HR on how to word the classified step ranges.
yeah. That's the only thing that I thought was that's some questions I remember.
So is this something we're looking at or voting on now, or?
Well, I would say any feedback, and then we can go and provide any clarification of those, but you all would need to vote eventually on whatever the final document it is. So that way we can send it forth, one, to the flat funding areas specifically so they have it, but also to have it as a document that would go to BFC, Board of Trustees, and be on file for future committees. The only added part, and this I will have you all look, is I did put into the end, and this is my own, so you all can choose to remove this or not. The very last sentence just saying the committee would like to, well, the whole last paragraph, just that the committee sees great value and importance in continuing to support the Student Union Recreation Center, would like to continue moving forward with the original flat funding agreement with the inclusion of the updated language. And then the committee would like to encourage future committees to continue to monitor the flat funding model to ensure that it's still viable and necessary during flat funding, or during base funding years.
Oh, it's fine.
Well, yeah, I can't speak. Anyway, I'm just saying that with the salary increase, we do not fund the salary increase.
Well, no, what has happened, the initial agreement, and in talking with everyone, what we're putting here is really what the intent was, is that really they were intending to pay for the salaries as they were in 2006, with the only pieces being if there's a cost of living, a minimum wage change, or in those positions where there's a mandatory step increase. What has happened, unfortunately, is there's been positions to where the appointing authority has decided when they hire a new, we'll say program manager, to bump the salary up an extra $10,000. Or that they've reclassified a position which has required it to be a higher salary. And because flat funding, the agreement is really that we will just continue to fund it, there's really not the ability for the committee to say yes or no to increasing those funds. So we would still provide the funding for increases in salary when they meet this definition, but not for an appointing authority to decide they want an extra $15,000 from S&A.
Just a very minor point. Third paragraph, the prior base funding. Can we get a year on that instead of prior? Just to make that clear.
Oh,
What
yep.
that's talking about.
I'm pretty sure it was 2006. Any other feedback? So we'll look and get the year clarification, as well as getting some language in there about for the classified, or maybe even just say mandatory. But even that's up to their interpretation.
Yeah, because somebody could say,
Step increases.
I've changed the job duties and now it needs to be reclassified up so it's mandatory, so.
Would it hurt to put in there that reclassifications or reorganizations all have to come before the committee?
We couldn't, well, yeah, I think we should, that's what they've done sporadically. I wouldn't say every time, but then what will we do if they come before the committee?
Say no.
Well, I think really the way that it would go now is if they did choose to reclassify, and we'll say that that increases the salary by $5,000. if we're not including that in there, that we would still fund them at that amount, that extra 5,000 they'd have to make up out of their, either the sub fee or the rec fee, depending on where it falls. Would be my interpretation.
Jacqueline?
Okay, so I'll make those, get the clarification in the language, and then we'll bring it back to briefly review next week. If there are other things, feel free to send them to me at any point, but we'll bring it back and then we can vote if we like it at that point. Perfect.
Moving on to section 9 of the business, communications received. Not received anything. Moving on to section 10, public comment, second call. Is there any public comment at this time? Moving on to section 11, adjournment. I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting. Trey moves, Dr. Kennedy seconds. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? This meeting is adjourned at 5:50. 6:50? No, 5:50.
That's very short.